What is up, everybody? It is Grand Prix GP02 here, coming to you once again from Humble Hyundai here in the north end of Houston, Texas. And a few weeks ago, some of you guys may recall that we took a look at the newly refinished version of Hyundai's longest running midsize sedan namesake. Well, now I've been given the keys to that exact same vehicle once again, except this one packs a hell of a lot more punch. Say hello to the newly refinished 2018 Hyundai Sonata Turbo. I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by these lines. I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by these lines. I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by these lines. I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by these lines. I'm so happy, I can't lie, mesmerized by these lines. Alright everyone, so let's get to it. And first things first, before we start talking about this particular vehicle that I have to show for you guys today, for those who want to see a little bit more of a normal version of the 2018 Sonata, check out the link that I've provided in the description box below to see my full review of the 2018 Sonata Limited with the normally aspirated 2.4 liter engine. But now, let's get to the turbo. Now, just like the design that came prior to this major mid-cycle refresh, the 2018 Sonata Turbo comes in two specific variations. You can either opt for the Sport 2.0 Turbo, or like my particular test vehicle here, finished in the quartz white pearl, the Limited 2.0 Turbo. Now, this being the top of the top trim out of the 7 that are now available for 2018, this car of course carries the biggest price tag out of the family, sporting a sticker price as tested here of $33,625, which in some people's minds is still quite a lot of money. But when I first tested this generation of Sonata, before its major mid-cycle refresh here for 2018, the sticker price of this particular car as tested would have been well over 35 grand. So it's good to see Hyundai knocking a little bit of numbers off of the price tag there, just to give customers still the notion of getting more car for the money. Now, when it comes to the looks department for the 2018 Sonata family, the Limited 2.0 Turbo definitely has set itself atop the ladder. I mean, of course, it is the most expensive of the Sonatas out there, but even just looking here at the front, it really does show itself quite well. Now, you do have the full LED headlight setup on this Limited Turbo model here that includes the dynamic bending light, so that's auto leveling and adjusting, the LED light guides here around the turn signals and the main projector bulb here. But as you can see, all the internal workings here have been fully blacked out, and it really contrasts with the quartz white pearl of my test vehicle here. Really sets itself off very nicely. A lot of the chrome accents that were a lot more bright silver, a lot of those have now been smoked, as you'll see when we go around the vehicle. You have this new sport front fascia that's signature here on the turbo models, and these include things such as the wheel air curtains here integrated into these gloss black plastic pieces here on the front, the new stacked LED daytime running lights, and as we go around, one of the big defining features is the new Sport grille. Now, this grille is featured on the naturally aspirated 2.4 liter Sport model and both of the turbo models. All the other ones, as you'll see in the Limited 2.4 review that I mentioned earlier, has the slat grille design, more of a Genesis style look, but if you look at this one, it's much more open and provides a lot more airflow to your radiator and intercoolers hidden right back there in the back. You do have a little bit of a black plastic piece here in the middle, but that's pretty good because you get a lot of road debris thrown up at the front grille, and that of course prevents a lot of damage from being done to the lower, more vulnerable areas of the components hidden behind. Now, talking about a mixed bag, one of the things that I'm a little concerned about is this wheel design. I mean, it does not look bad, and I really was not a fan of the 17-inch wheels on the other trim levels that you can get in the Sonata family, but for a standard wheel on both turbo models, these 18-inch darker silver finished wheels do finish the design off very nicely. The tires are a little bit thicker now. They're not so much low profile, so again, a little bit less road noise. But one of the critiques that I would have for these, and maybe this is just me being nitpicky here, is I kind of wish they were just a tad darker. I think that would coincide very well with things like the darked out headlights and these black plastic pieces here on the front. If they were just a couple shades darker, I think that would probably suit this car very well. But for a wheel design, they're not bad. You've got 4-wheel disc brakes all the way around, and the sport tuned suspension that carried over from the previous generation. Now moving down along the side of the vehicle here, we do have the body color exterior mirrors. These are heated, and it also includes your blind spot monitoring system, as you can note by the little icon there in the upper corner of each mirror. That emits a audible chime inside and will detect vehicles at a pretty significant distance, as I found out, which is pretty nice. And that is a standard piece on all Sonata trims now. So it's not just the turbo, everything down to the lowest end SE gets blind spot monitoring now. So that is a nice upgrade for 2018, but these come with the integrated LED turn signals, a little bit more of the gloss black treatment here as you move towards the body of the vehicle. Now, one sad thing that so many people are saying about the Sonata already for 2018 is that the ones available with the power tilting and sliding sunroof do not have the option of a panoramic roof. I really wish that Hyundai had kept the panoramic sunroof. They say they eliminated it to save weight and because they were actually starting to break a lot, but I really think it finished off the car. It gave it so much more of a luxurious touch, but now you just have the standard small frontal power tilting and sliding sunroof instead, which again, that's just something that a lot of people are going to have to live with, but still sad nonetheless. But I did say that you find more of these smoked chrome accents as you go around the vehicle here. So we have the smoked chrome door handles. The turbo models, both Sport and Limited, will feature the proximity key keyless access system. So that's push button start, and also the hands-free smart trunk access, as I'll demonstrate here in a bit. You have a smoked chrome accent now running along the entire rocker panel, which does add a nice little touch. It's just little things here and there that add a nice extra little bit here to the Sport or the turbo models in general. Moving around here to the back, again, the same design theme continues with all the others. You have LED taillights here as standard on both turbo models. Again, your 2.0 turbo badging and your new Sonata badges going across as well. And one difference between this and the other Sonata models that you'll find out there is a different lower rear fascia. You have the sportier rear diffuser. You now have dual exhaust, which is kind of good, but bad at the same time, because I really miss those quad tailpipes that they had on the 2015 to 2017 models. It's nice that they give you duals, but the fact that the engine doesn't sound as sporty or as throaty as a lot of people would like, I wish they had those quad tips on there, because I remember from 2015 to 2017, this car just purred when you turned it on for the first time in the morning. You do have the rear parking assist, as noted by the sensors lining the bumper here, and my favorite feature of all, the hidden trunk release. Again, push the top of the Hyundai logo here, and of course, the trunk automatically opens for you. Now, finishing up our tour of the exterior here, I think the design is one of those ones where you're going to need to see it for a good while for it to grow on you, and that's the case as it is with me. I said it was very clean and very nice looking before, but the more I look at it, the more I'm starting to kind of pick holes in the design here. I love the front end of it, especially with the turbo model here. I think those blacked out headlights and the front fascia really do set this car off very nicely, but coming around here to the back, again, this is the area I think where it's going to have to grow on me for a while, because moving the license plate from the middle of the trunk lid here down to the lower part of the bumper, I think was a pretty bold move. Again, it's still very much a Kia-esque design. Again, it reminds me very much of this car's sibling, the Kia Optima, for 2017 and 2018. But overall, again, I think the looks are very clean, they're very crisp, and I think still with a little bit more tweaks, the 2018 and upcoming Sonatas could definitely benefit from things like that in the long run. But as much as the exterior has changed, what about the interior? Well, let's open the door and find out. Now again, with the 2018 model being a very extensive refresh of the 2015 through 2017 model years, opening the door and examining this model's interior reveals quite a lot of carried over styling elements, design cues, and more that will make this interior seem pretty familiar to those of you who are already familiar with the more current generation of Sonata. Now, starting here with the aesthetics, the top part of this Limited's door, I wish there was a little bit better choice of materials here. Same thing goes with the rest of the interior, but things like the top part of this door, it has a little bit of plushness to it. It's decently smooth, but it doesn't feel like the best of materials. Probably the best material here is actually the middle part of this door. You have a very soft, smooth, padded leather here for the middle, and I wish they had carried like this to the door armrest here. The door pull and the armrest itself are very rough feeling. It feels actually cheaper than the material on the top part of the door, so I wish they'd maybe switched this with that, or maybe use the same material for both. Just a little suggestion there. You do have a 2-person memory setting for the power adjustable driver's seat on this limited turbo model. That goes all the way down to models such as the Sport and the Limited, I believe. You have a aluminum-like texture here that goes from the front doors across the dash and even accents the rear doors over there. And then you have all of your typical switchgear, your power mirrors, your power door locks, the keyless access with push-button start and hands-free trunk access, as I showed you earlier. Both the front windows are automatic in both directions. It would have been nice to see all 4 of them automatic, this being an almost $34,000 car. Maybe an option like that would be nice to have. And also you have your window locks down there as well. Now, being the fact that I have spent a lot of time in these newer generation Sonatas, the interior of this 2018 model still feels like a very familiar place to be. Albeit the fact there's that mix of carryover items from 2015 to 2017 and newer items such as this center stack here. As far as visibility and seating position and things like that, it still, again, feels like a very familiar place to be. As far as ingress and egress, entry and exit, the entry is very wide. You do have quite a lot of room here. Don't have to duck your head too much. The step in height is actually plentifully acceptable depending on where you have the seat. I really don't have to step down and in too much, but nor do you have to step up and in or really even slide right in. The step in height is very much acceptable. As far as visibility is concerned, it's just like before. There is a little bit of a hindrance for taller people with this rather large auto dimming rearview mirror. If I'm looking over in this direction, it does sit right in my line of vision, but it's not too big of a hazard. So visibility out of the front is excellent. Same goes for the side windows here. I can see right past the B-pillar and past the passenger side headrest, and the same story is said for visibility out of the back. So all in all, very acceptable in terms of driver comfort, visibility, and seating. But it is an absolute scorcher here in Houston, so we'll go ahead and fire this puppy up, get our air conditioning running as usual. Typical Hyundai key, very small and pocket size, a lot smaller than some of the keys on Hyundai's more premium vehicles like their Genesis products, and also vehicles like the Santa Fe and the Azera. Much smaller key, all your typical functions, lock, unlock, trunk, panic button, and also the retractable key blade, which can be used to unlock the vehicle should either the key or the car itself lose power. But it's like any other smart key system out there. Just have the key in the vehicle, put your foot on the brake pedal. You do have the aluminum sport pedals down there, by the way. Then hit the engine start button on the dashboard, and all right, so we got our air conditioning going at a reasonable pace here, so let's talk about this interior. Now, being the fact that I did go pretty in-depth with the new Sonata's interior with my 2018 limited 2.4 liter review, I'm simply going to be touching on a lot of differences between this turbo model and the standard Sonatas in the rest of the lineup. We'll touch on things such as technology as we go along, but mainly we're just going to focus on the differences between this and a normal 2.4 liter Sonata. But first things first, before we start talking about that, I wanted to make mention of these seats. I didn't really touch on them just a few minutes ago, but a couple things I love about them. They're much more aggressively bolstered. They have plenty of room for more broad-shouldered people. But one thing, you can definitely see it, the colored piping and accents here. In the 2015 through 2017 models, they had gray piping, and they also had orange, which was pretty awesome. But this beautiful, deep, almost navy blue, the stitching and the piping here on the seats, it really, really sets up this car nicely. And I really think in this car's case with the quartz white exterior, I really think this interior suits it very well. The stitching continues as well on the center console, the shift boot, and around the interior rim of the steering wheel, which is where we're going to get to first. Now, the steering wheel in this car is pretty familiar. It is the D-cut 3-spoke leather-wrapped steering wheel with the rather large paddle shifters as usual. The paddle shifters, unfortunately, are plastic, which is kind of disappointing. They don't exactly feel the greatest, but they are connected to a new transmission for the Sonata Turbo, so we'll talk about that here briefly in just a moment. Same 3-spoke design as usual. Again, the blue stitching, as I was mentioning earlier, and all of your typical functions. You have active cruise control in this one, so that is a standard feature on this limited turbo. You have the controls for your thin thin film transistor display up there between your tachometer and speedometer, which we'll get to here in just a bit. Regular cruise control functions, as well as Bluetooth, hands-free radio, and voice command and recognition all the same. Moving over to the left of the steering wheel for just a moment, we do have the blind spot monitoring, we have the lane keep assist, as well as your trunk, gas cap opening, and traction control, and your instrumentation dimming functions as well. Now, moving on to that little display here in the middle for just a second, it's just like all the other ones. It's pretty easy to do. You use the little button here that's labeled like a book to scroll between the different pages. I really like the way it's set up. You have your distance to empty all the way up here at the top, your outside temperature, your lane keep assist icon, whether or not it's active, as well as your odometer. But you keep going through there. You have things such as your lane keep assist functions, attention alert, so on and so forth. Keep going, you can change things such as the smart trunk access, the welcome sound that you heard just a bit ago, so on and so forth. But as you scroll through the main page here, things like active fuel economy, accumulated trip info, driving info, and so on and so forth, and also a drive mode, which I want to touch on really quick. The button is located down here by the shifter. This new Sonata Turbo actually has 4 driving modes in it now. We are in Comfort, which takes the place of Normal. I flip it over, we've got Eco, Sport, and Smart. And the Smart is the one that is definitely very innovative for this car. It's very similar to the one in the Genesis G90, to be more specific there. It basically learns your driving style. So it tells you whether you're driving more economically, more aggressively, and the car's transmission, throttle timings, and so on will be adapted as such. But we'll go ahead, go back to Comfort there. And again, you can just scroll through the different pages to find different bits of information. The gauge cluster is relatively the same orange needles, the same numbers and everything like that. Very much all familiar from 2015 to 2017 as well. Moving over from the steering column really quick and all of that, we get to the center stack, which again, it has been touched up a good bit here for 2018. Different keys and things like that. A different layout, which I'm actually quite fond of. Certain keys and certain touch points in here feel like they're taken more out of a Genesis product compared to say just a normal Sonata. You have an 8-inch touchscreen here for this limited turbo model, which does include navigation, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. Unfortunately, we don't have the map card inserted in this one, but I can assure you the map graphics are pretty familiar to those of you familiar with the Sonata's map graphics over the years. Touch response, it's pretty slow in terms of certain elements. Again, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I love the fact you can swipe it like a smartphone. That's always been a favorite feature of mine. But as far as touch response, certain elements of it, like going to the All Menus button, it is a little bit on the sluggish side. Going to the My Menu function and things like that. Again, it just takes time to actually get used to. Now, with this 8-inch touchscreen, you do have the Infinity Premium audio system included with this limited turbo, and I will tell you, it does make some pretty decent sounds. Now, the sound coming out of those speakers, I don't know if you can tell that or not, but the sound is extremely crisp coming out of there with this Infinity audio system. You do have the Clarify music clarification technology, so again, they are making sure you get the crispest possible sound out of the Infinity audio system. As you can see, we do have Sirius XM satellite radio. We do have Bluetooth media streaming, iPod, USB, and auxiliary inputs. And as far as just everything else, the graphics and everything could use a bit of an update. It would be nice to see a little bit of a newer system in here, but again, this also has Hyundai's Blue Link telematics and car care, so the updated system would be nice to see something a little bit more along the lines of what I see in this TFT display up here in the gauge cluster instead of right here in the touchscreen display. Down here below all of that, you do have all of your touch buttons. So you have your navigation, map, you have your radio favorites button, different medias and things like that, seek, track, and I just love the way all these buttons feel. You really don't have to touch them that much in order to activate each one of whatever it's labeled as. You do have your tuning power knob, or your volume and power knob, and also your tuning knob, so that's nice. There's no touch functions there. I know I keep saying that about pretty much every car review, but I cannot get over the fact that some people have put the touch screen functions right there. It's just a little annoying in my book. But moving down from the radio controls, we do have the dual zone automatic climate control system here. This does include Hyundai's Clean Air air ionizer and purifier, so that's definitely a clever filtration system, or that's a nice filtration system that allows you to eliminate all of the allergens coming in from outside, again, providing the cleanest air possible. But as you can see, we've got the sync mode, so you can control the temperatures at the same time or independent of each other. Fan speed in the middle, climate zones over here, automatic as I was saying before. We do have 3-stage heated and ventilated seats. As you can see, I got the ventilated side on my side going full blast right now, and definitely loving that. My butt is nice and cool over here. Same thing goes for the passenger side, air conditioning, recycling, maximum AC, front and rear defrost, and the heated function for the leather wrap steering wheel. So nice to heat your hands up on those colder days over there. Couple things to note down here in the center console. You have two 12-volt 180 watt outlets, and then you have this little icon. Here in this little cubby hole here is a Qi wireless charging pad. So phones that are wireless charging compatible, you can lay them right in there and they will be able to be charged while you're driving without any messy cords coming from the USB slot there, or perhaps the one here in the center console. Speaking of the USB, again, you do have the USB and auxiliary input as I was mentioning before, and another one of those little outlets over here. Now, the main thing I wanted to get to that I was touching on just a bit ago is the transmission. The selector here may look the same. You, of course, have park, reverse, neutral, drive. The slimmer down shifter knob carried right over from the Sonata turbos of previous. This, of course, has the Shift-tronic manual shift mode, but this is a new 8-speed automatic transmission, and it's good, but at the same time, I'm not exactly a fan of it just yet. I had a chance to take this car for a quick drive yesterday, and it still felt just like the 6-speed automatic from before, but with one major difference. The shift points are much quicker. It has the shifting times of a dual clutch transmission, but a little bit more on the sluggish side in terms of performance, even with the car in sport mode. It'll get the car to 60 in about 6.5 to 7 seconds if I had to guess, but it still needs a little bit of work. It doesn't feel as responsive, I guess, as it should be. But anyways, put the car in reverse. You do have a rear backup camera with the guidance lines, of course, which activate as you turn the steering wheel. You have the active door locks, which when you put the car in park, they unlock. Any other gear, they will stay locked. The drive mode select we touched on already. You can turn off the rear parking assist. The limited turbo here comes with an electronic parking brake and also the auto hold function. So basically you push that button, pull up at a stoplight, on a hill, wherever, take your foot off the brake, and the car will hold itself for you at a dead stop until you take your foot off the brake, put your foot on the accelerator, and the car will then set off again. Center console wise, it's just like before, nice and long. You do have a very deep storage, and I was actually wrong. There is no USB charger down in here. In cars like my Elantra Sport, actually, there is a USB active charger that's down in here. So it's kind of sad to see that Hyundai didn't include that one in this. But anyways, you do have that one there, as well as the wireless charging if and when you need it. Finally, looking up towards the roof here, as I was mentioning earlier, we do have the larger auto-dimming rear view mirror, which includes your BlueLink SOS functions and things like that over here on the left, the power button for the compass, as well as a 3-way HomeLink garage door opening system. And finally, moving up to the roof, again, it's such a sad sight to see such a small sunroof up there on this particular vehicle. I miss that panoramic sunroof a lot, but you can open just the shade, or you can pull the trigger all the way back, and even with the shade in place, it just simply slides back with ease. Now, when this new gen Sonata was first introduced to the North American market in 2015, it was labeled as having the class-leading amount of interior space. And here for 2018, the same formula continues. Now, before we get into the back seat, one thing I want to make note of are these rear sunshades on this limited turbo. It feels like something taken straight out of a Genesis product. I'm loving that they included these. It's just a nice little touch. It's the little things that matter sometimes. But getting into the back seat here, again, the story is no different. The door shuts with a pretty authoritative thunk. There is a little bit of a tinny rattle there as I close it, but as far as headroom and legroom, I have the seat exactly where I would be driving it, and as you can see, I feel like I got a mile between my knee and the back of the driver's seat here. There's only one map pocket, and that's here in the back of the passenger side of the vehicle. You do have a active USB charger here for the rear seat occupants, so that's nice that Hyundai gives you that. It's better actually that it's not here in the center console, that it's back here, so passengers don't have to wire their cords all the way here to the back seat. But again, headroom and legroom, I have plentiful amounts of it, so easily you could fit 5 people in this car. You do have 60/40 split fold rear seats, as well as this little piece right here. And in fact, the seat is actually loosened, so you can actually fold it down here for us to see today. So they fold nice and flat, have a decent sized pass through there in the back as well, and they just lock right in place as such. But as far as rear seat legroom and headroom, and even up there in the front, this is still, in my eyes, definitely a top of the top in terms of room. Now, just like a lot of its competitors in the same class, the 2018 Sonata's rear cargo space is still quite cavernous for the size of the vehicle. We open the trunk lid here and we're looking at 16.3 total cubic feet of cargo space, and that's before you do something like fold down these 60/40 split fold seats, which of course would extend the cargo space quite significantly. Now, there's only one hindrance that I can see with this rear cargo area in and of itself, and that is the fact that the trunk lid here has these exposed rear hinges. So my advice, if you've got cargo here, the main area is fine, but these little side pockets here, I suggest you keep your cargo quite small, otherwise you are at the risk of crushing something. But overall, I've tested this in the past and I've been able to fit quite a lot of stuff here in the back as well. So overall, a thumbs up for cargo space. Now, unlike a lot of other areas on this vehicle, which have seen rather significant changes in some areas for 2018, one of the areas on this vehicle that remains the same is what's up here in the engine bay. As I've stated this whole time, my particular tester is carrying the 2-liter twin-scroll turbocharged and direct fuel-injected 4-cylinder engine, making the same 245 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Now, this engine also features the same dual overhead cam setup with 16 valves and Hyundai's dual continuous variable valve timing. Now, the ace in the hole that this engine has over its V6 competitors in some cases is that the torque in this engine arrives at just 1,350 RPM and doesn't stop kicking until it hits around 4,000 RPM on its way to a near 7,000 RPM redline. Now, there is one critique that I have with this engine real quick, and that is the fact that although it's an engine that's been around for a little while and Hyundai has tweaked it here and there, it's just a little bit buzzy and kind of a little bit noisy when you get it out on the freeway. But other than that, it's still a very, very powerful engine nonetheless. Now, thanks to our friends at the EPA, you're looking at 23 in the city, 32 on the highway on recommended premium unleaded fuels. Now, at nearly $34,000 and being the most expensive of the 2018 Sonata family, my particular test vehicle here is crammed to the absolute hilt with pretty much every available and standard safety feature that Hyundai currently carries in their arsenal. Now, some of the more noteworthy ones that are standard on my limited turbo tester here include, but are not limited to, the blind spot assist, which, as I said, is standard now on every 2018 Sonata, the active cruise control, which we touched on earlier, but also things such as automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keep assist, and lane departure warning. So already you've got quite a lot of active safety features, but it doesn't stop there. You also have your usual array of airbags, including the dual front impact airbags for both the driver and passenger, side curtain and side impact airbags, as well as a driver's knee airbag to go along with it. So it's pretty fair to say the 5-star safety rating that the IIHS has given this car for 2018 is definitely well deserved. Now, as a conclusion, sitting here in the passenger seat, I have just as much room as I did in the driver's seat. The passenger seat is also multi-way power adjustable, however, it does not come with power lumbar like the driver's seat. And as far as things such as the glove box is damped. It falls rather quickly, but it still falls rather softly at the same time. It's not lined in felt, but I'm not expecting anything super luxurious like that. And in the end, although this is a major refresh, certain areas of this vehicle do actually feel new. However, off camera, being the fact that I did actually have the chance to drive this vehicle, it really does not feel any different than the 2015 to 2017 model years. It just looks a good bit different. So when you're out on the road driving around, you don't feel like you're in anything different, but it's when you actually look around that you start to notice some of the changes. But all in all, the 2018 Sonata is still a worthy adversary for a lot of its mid-sized competitors. However, I still think there are a few things that need to be touched upon. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the 2018 Hyundai Sonata Turbo has now unfortunately drawn to a close. I do hope you guys have enjoyed this review as much as I have had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do give this video a thumbs up, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But in the end, a huge thanks goes out once again to the folks here at Humble Hyundai for providing us with the Sonata Turbo here for us to take a look at. But in the end, guys, from the north end of Houston, Texas, this has been Grand Prix GTP 02, and I will see y'all next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.